Undoubtedly, there are many, many more people throughout the world that are just thinking about us today and are meeting with this 53rd class of Gilead. At all of the graduations of the Gilead School, we have Brother Franz talk to the students. So we have Brother Franz with us this morning, and he'll address you.
On Friday, September the 8th, the first day of the lunar month of Tishrei set in. That meant that Rosh Hashanah had also begun, because Rosh Hashanah is calculated not from the spring month of Nisan, which is the first month of the religious calendar of the Bible, but from the first day of the seventh month of the calendar. And then is when what is called the secular year sets in. Well, that Rosh Hashanah, which began on September the 8th of this year, marked the beginning of the year 5733 a.m., or Anno Mundi, or from the beginning of the world. 5733 years from the beginning of the world, of mankind's existence. That's what the Orthodox Jews believe, that we are yet 267 years short of the end of 6 millenniums and the beginning of the 7th millennium of mankind's existence. Is that what the spiritual Israelites believe? That we are so far distant from the beginning of that millennium which Christian hearts have looked forward to with such yearning anticipation, when Satan and his demons will be bound and imprisoned in an abyss, and when the Messiah will reign with his saints for 1,000 years. Well, we have to be very, very careful of our attitude of time in these days. According to our chronology, we are almost smack up against the greatest happening in all human history. And it's so close upon us and so hard to believe, such a good thing that you cannot really believe it's true, that some are beginning to lose faith in the matter, that we are really on the threshold of a new system of things. I recall reading just recently a letter from a circuit servant in which he was alarmed at the conditions which he found throughout his circuit. And he called attention to the fact that there are many doubters, that some say that the big happening is 200 years away, like the Jews. And some are going through a period of lethargy and apparent indifference because they're leaving the full-time service, the pioneer work, and are engaging now in secular works which claim more of their attention, and they are settling down to a life of self-centered comfort and the realization of things that have really been the desires of their hearts after all, which shows a lack of appreciation of where we are on the stream of time and what these significant world events which we are observing from day to day really mean in the lives of the Christian congregation. So, we have to be on the alert and guard against any such tendency developing among ourselves. It may be true not only of that one circuit servant's area of activity, it may be true also of other circuit servants. You who are circuit servants in this audience this morning may know whether similar conditions like that are developing in your midst, the congregations in which you serve. This is very, very opposite from what the Apostle Peter admonished the Christians to do as regards their mental attitude toward what is taking place in the world. The Apostle Peter, for instance, he stimulated the Christians and told them to look forward with the most earnest anticipation of the realization of their hopes, which would come at the end of this system of things. And he pointed out that there would be those who would scoff and ridicule and call attention to the fact that as far as they can see, there is no evidence of the parousia of the Lord Jesus Christ or of the coming of the day of Jehovah. And the Apostle Peter, therefore, in his second letter, made it his endeavor to counteract such an influence of skepticism as comments by unbelievers would tend to create in the hearts and minds of Christians. And as you will remember, in the 3rd chapter of his second letter to the Christians, beginning with the 11th verse, he emphasizes the fact that we are coming to the end of this system of things. How far distant it was from Peter's day, he didn't know. Paul didn't know, and the other Christians didn't accurately know. But what did that matter? It was coming, and we should live as if it were to come within our generation. So the fact that the system of things is going to end, that the scene of this world is changing, is an absolute certainty. There's no doubt about it. And hence the Apostle Peter proceeds today in the 11th verse of that 3rd chapter of his epistle, saying, therefore, that all these things are going to be dissolved. What manner of persons ought we to be in all holiness and godliness? And what? Awaiting and hastening the day of the coming of the Lord, as the King James Version says. Hastening the coming of the day of the Lord. Well, we know we cannot hurry God up. He's got his scheduled program of activity, of order of events. He's timed himself. We cannot move his schedule up or move it back. But the New World Translation shows the proper mental attitude that Christians should take with regard to the end of this system of things when it says in that 12th verse, awaiting and keeping close in mind the presence of the day of Jehovah, through which the heavens, being on fire, will be dissolved, and the elements, being intensely hot, will melt. But we, brothers, according to his promise, are looking for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness is to dwell. The Apostle Peter, therefore, said, instead of taking the attitude that the realization of the culmination of our hopes is in the distant future, and therefore taking it easy, settling down to the order of this system of things, we should keep it close in mind. That's the way we hasten it. We hasten it in our minds. We keep it always on the mind that we are merely temporary residents in this world, and that this world is coming to its climactic end. And we should prepare for it with all acts of holy living and deeds of godly devotion, and not mix in with a world which is going to be destroyed. For that reason, when circuit servants and others and the elders in the local congregations come up against such attitudes expressed or manifested in the course of life by individuals of the congregation, they should take the attitude of the Apostle Peter and counteract it and show what is happening, just as this issue of the Awake magazine of October the 8th endeavors to do, and show the urgency of the matter, that this is no time to slow down or take it easy or to engage in the business affairs of this world, become a part of it. As the Apostle Paul said to Timothy in his last letter to him, that a soldier who's been enlisted by his commander, he doesn't involve himself in the business affairs of this world, but he keeps himself free in order that he might serve him who enlisted him in his military service. And that's the kind of encouragement that all of us should give to any who are doubting that we are so near to the coming true of what we've awaited so long, that we are the generation in which these things are to occur, and that we've come near to the end of this generation and these things ought to occur within our day. And just because we may be the generation that's going to see these things, we ought not to think, well, it's impossible to believe that I should be there on the scene when these things occur. Now, we don't know why it is that some are taking this reported attitude, whether it's this changeover that we are now having from what we've had for decades and are introducing or reintroducing a system of elders and deacons or ministerial servants in the congregations. Now, there has been a mixture of reactions on the part of the brothers to this bringing in of elders and ministerial servants in the congregation and designating them by name as such. I remember just a couple of days before the beginning of the month of September, just passed, I was talking with Brother Tommy Andros of Quebec, Canada. And he said, Brother Franz, he says, for years I was wondering when Jehovah was going to bring back the system of things that they had in the days of the apostles, of having elders and of ministerial servants in the congregations. And I used to pray about it and cry about it. And now, here it is. And he was elated over the matter. About the same time, I heard fears expressed about the bringing in of this arrangement. And it was said, we're going to have trouble with the elders. Those remarks were doubtless made against the background of previous experience. Now, we must not think that this arrangement, which went into effect on the 1st of September of this year, for most of the congregations, is something new. That having elders and deacons or ministerial servants is an innovation among Jehovah's Witnesses. But that is not so. It is not anything new. They had elders and deacons, as we know from the Bible, back there in the Apostle Paul's day. And we've always had elders and deacons or ministerial servants up till 40 years ago. Now, of course, that's farther back on the stream of time that many of this audience, we don't know how many of you are 40 years old, but doubtless many of you are under that age limit. But we have had elders and deacons in the ranks of the modern witnesses of Jehovah. And it was according to the permission of the Most High God that this arrangement existed. In the days of Pastor Russell, they were functioning in the congregations, and Brother Russell, in the 6th volume of Studies in the Scriptures, he treated upon this matter and showed how elders and deacons, as they were called according to the King James Version, should really be installed in office. Now, there was no endeavor on the part of the brothers back there to copy democracy in the arrangements of the congregation. But an endeavor was made to conform to what the Bible said. And so in Acts chapter 14, verse 33, where it says that Paul and Barnabas ordained elders for them in every congregation, why, we know that there is a particular Greek word there, which means really to stretch the hand. They hand-stretched elders, according to the literal meaning of the Greek text. And that was always understood to be the extending of the hands of those in charge over those who were now newly to be inducted into office, as the extending of the hands of Paul and Barnabas over the heads of those who were installed as elders. And so rather than try to imitate democracy, such as was practiced among the ancient Greeks, where they stretched forth a hand and voted in favor of their candidates, why, an endeavor was made to act according to the sense of the Greek text. And so that hand stretching, instead of being that over the heads of the newly inducted candidates, why, it was understood to be a hand stretching upon the part of the members of the congregations. And they were the ones who were obligated to install elders and deacons by voting on them. And if Brother Russell read the Rotherham translation of Acts 14:23, and we were circulating the Rotherham translation of the Bible, having watched our edition of it, he knew that Rotherham said that they appointed elders by vote in every congregation. And so, with this understanding of matters, why, that's the way we proceeded, installing elders and deacons as well, by stretching forth the hand of the voters of the congregation. And the majority, of course, resulting in the putting in office of this brother or that brother as an elder or a ministerial servant. Well, that arrangement continued through the years, all the way down till the year 1932. And then it was deemed timely to change matters, to eliminate the elders. And there was some reason for this, and it was suggested by this remark that we're going to have trouble with the elders, because some of them back there were causing trouble in congregations. Not all of them, however, but some were impeding the activities of the brothers in the local congregations, their participation in the declaration of the good news of God's kingdom. And this seems to have been the basis for the elimination of elders altogether, these obstacles to unified action on the part of the brothers in preaching the good news of the established kingdom and the making of disciples of the Lord Jesus Christ. And so the Watchtower, you remember, it proposed in a resolution that the congregations get together and they adopt a resolution by which they dissolved their body of elders and deacons locally, and they asked the society to do what? The society to appoint the elders and deacons theocratically? No, but to appoint a service director. And then the congregations would appoint a committee of 7 or 10 to assist this service director. And so all the congregations acted upon that suggestion published in the Watchtower, and they adopted that resolution. And that's how it came in. And I remember how in New York City, on a service meeting night in the Apollo Hall in Brooklyn, Brother Herman Henschel was standing there in the rear. There was some standing, and the hall was full, and he was the one in New York City who made the motion that the New York congregation do away with the elders and deacons and have the society appoint a service director, and he to be assisted by a congregation. And that action on the part of the New York congregation was published in the Watchtower as an example to all the congregations throughout the world. And they followed that example, and we thought that was a marked time, a marked date. And so we have continued under that arrangement since the year 19...